My name is Michael Maloney, and I'm an actor by trade. I got interested in macrobiotics because at drama school, by the time I reached the end of my first year, I was 19 years of age. I was having a lot of trouble getting up in the morning. I was overeating a great deal. In fact, I was a fat kid. And I tried all the diets through the first year, very cosmetic reasons for entering into macrobiotics. I tried nothing but steak, nothing but cottage cheese, nothing but yogurt, these miracle diets that you pick up in the ladies' magazines because all the girls had them. I'd lose 23 pounds in 15 days apparently, but I'd only ever get past 2 or 3 days and then reach for the custard cream biscuits. You know, it was always the same thing. Really, I was up against it. If I wanted to change myself, I needed to take desperate measures. Stapling stomachs wasn't a part of the horizon, a part of the landscape at that point. And one boy suggested that I eat nothing but brown rice for 10 days, which I did. And I lost about 14 pounds in that 10 days. And I also felt rather good. I'd like to talk more about this in detail a bit later, but I also felt rather good, rather clean, rather perceptive, and certainly at peace with myself and my environment. And I was working as an usher at the Royal Court Theatre at the time, and I was in charge of the coffee bar. And they sold sandwiches, and they sold something called rock cakes, which are basically balls of dough with raisins and brown sugar in, and sugar buns, which are rolls with icing sugar on, either pink or white. And anyway, we did all the business. We did both intervals in the show, and after the second interval they said, "Mike, you know, you look great, you look so much better. Why don't you just have a rock cake and some coffee? Surely you can have one." Well, unbeknownst to me, if you do a sort of a detox diet, if you like, and a balancing diet, and that's your first experience of it, it will produce a huge reaction. You will want to, the moment you start tasting a little bit of sugar, you will have a binge. So I had one rock cake, and 13 rock cakes later, and 6 sugar buns later, and 2 pourers of those coffee, you know, Kenco pourer coffee jars. I had to go to hospital. At the hospital, they just thought I'd been taking drugs. I'd been, you know, out clubbing or something like that, the equivalent of in the 70s. And they said, "What drug are you taking? What drugs have you been taking?" And they were getting the stomach pump ready, and like that. And I said, "Oh, I've had 13 rock cakes and 6 sugar." And they would go home. Just go. So I went home, and I was very upset stomach-wise for the whole weekend, for about 4 days. But the interesting thing was, quite frankly, because I was a fat kid, I could have had at least half that amount 10 days before, and it would not have affected me at all. I was, like most people, very used to junk food, if you like, and highly sugared food, highly refined foods. That was part of my diet. We were young, we were fit and healthy, so it's not going to have much of an effect. In the long term, it had a terrible effect. But what struck me about this experience was that food might have an effect on your behaviour and your perception and your general overall health. And I discovered that by using rice as a staple food, along with other grains like barley, oats, oat porridge for instance, and then secondary staples like pasta and bread, and using fresh vegetables and leaving alone sugar. And sugar was the worst of our problems then. We really didn't have a tremendous bank of E numbers to deal with that you do today in 2009. Of course we did. We had all the canned drinks, but you know, it didn't seem so bad. Now it seems an escalation of problems. And by having clean food and simple food, you would attain a different sort of feeling about your body, and you certainly feel healthier. I think that's the important thing. You just feel healthier. So I pursued it. My lack of knowledge meant that I did what most people did in those days, and in fact the British government issued a health warning in one of their dietary recommendation books going, "Don't follow the macrobiotic path, because all you do is eat rice and drink soy sauce, and everybody goes yellow and shrivels up." And people were going completely stick-like. It was like a form of anorexia, really, you know, completely stick-like, because they had had this wide and varied lifestyle. You know, bacon and eggs in the morning, you know, Mars bar at 11 o'clock, you know, mincemeat and rubbish at school, and followed by ice cream or something with custard, and then like another ice cream at tea time, and then rush home for chips, and then, you know, whatever chocolate you get hold of. That would have been your lifestyle every day of your life, and you would not know better, and that looks like good food to you. And suddenly I had this possibility, but I didn't know what to do. All I knew was that that kind of world didn't work. So I stuck to the new world very rigidly, and I just ate what I first discovered was good for me. Just rice, and just a lot of salt. Sea salt, of course, not the usual table salt, proper salt, and drank a lot of water. But that went on for about 6 weeks. And of course it was too much, so I would be working in an office at the same time because it was my school vacation, and people would slip me a bit of chocolate or stuff like that, and in a way it affected a little bit of balance. So, you know, I had a little bit of sweet food, and that probably helped stop me being so rigid and stopped all those major salt deposits that were going down in my body. But then after a while I went on holiday with my folks, and I went to Spain, and the Spanish have a lot of traditional dishes. More so, I think they recognised it more so than they do now, although really, once you leave the cities, the cuisine hasn't changed in Spain. So I could have a haricot bean dish, white bean dish, I could have fresh seafood, I could have rice and beans very easily, and corn and beans, and this was just natural food. It was natural for them as falling off a log to eat this stuff, you know, in their restaurants and cafes. So I got a bit of an inkling of what it could be like, and it didn't hurt me, this kind of food, so I thought this was great. And then I went back to college, and for a good 2/3 of my next year, I ate very well, very simply, because I was a student anyway, so I was going to live on quite modest sort of selection of food and rations, if you like. And I felt absolutely great, and I did very great. But I didn't know enough about balancing foods, and again, I got to eventually such an extreme state, or my weight loss was so rapidly extreme, that eventually the other side has to come out, and I ate cheesecake for the first time in my life. I'd never eaten cheesecake before, and I don't think I stopped eating cheesecake for about 3 months. And I would leave, you know, I'd go college, I'd go home and I'd cook myself a proper meal about 9 o'clock. I'd go across to the supermarket, across the way line supermarket, to get some cheesecake. They'd be sold out, so I get on the tube and go to the National Film Theatre where I first had cheesecake and buy a bit of cheesecake there. And then on the way back, I'll go via the West End because they have late night supermarkets, and they might have more cheesecake and different, you know, and so it goes on. So I got back into the binging world again. But eventually, you know, my body calmed down, and I was able to derive a great deal of information and a great deal of well-being and a great deal of progress from this kind of diet. It doesn't guarantee you anything other than very probably simpler and better health, I think. But how you engineer that health, how you create that health, is entirely up to you and your perceptions and your practice. Practicing cooking, and you really won't understand how to work macrobiotics or practice it unless you cook, especially cooking for yourself, because that way you're in constant rapport with the food, and the food will turn to energy in your body and will turn into self-expression. So you must keep practicing and keep experimenting and attempting to find balances in foods and how it will work best for you.